Hello, Tippendales. Welcome to the interview portion of Daily Tips that may or may not help you. We are here with our guest tipper of the month, Justin Schuman. Justin, hello. Thank you for your tip this past Wednesday. Excited for your tips in the upcoming Wednesdays. Could you please tell us, just like in a quick little soundbite, who you are and how people might know you and kind of like the world in which you inhabit that you gave us tips this month?
Yeah, sure, I will do my best. I'm Justin Schuman. It's lovely to meet all of you, digitally, orally. If you follow me on social, and if you don't, you'll often hear me say that human is in my last name because it is true, so branding on point. I was an actor on Broadway. I gave a TEDx talk on authenticity in 2022, and since 2022, I've built my combined social following to over 900,000, and I like to say just by being me and sharing thoughts off the top of my head. I also really love this idea of using content creation and social media as tools for self-healing, for excavating one's own personality, as this like somatic practice of stepping into what it means to being yourself. And nowadays I'm working with clients on storytelling, creative directing their personal brands online, and I'm also eager to get back to performing. I'm a New York native, and I'm very happy to be here.
I did know you were a New York native.
I mean, Long Island, so...
Yeah. New York State native.
New York City adjacent.
Yeah. New York City adjacent is exactly. I think actually of all the places, I feel like Long Island gets to claim the adjacent word most. Because Jersey's Jersey, and adjacent usually means beside, and so North ain't gonna get it. So I think Long Island gets New York City adjacent exclusively.
You're not wrong. I think it's my retroactive finding out that Long Island is, on the whole, deeply red that makes me do the eye movement I did when I said Long Island, because I didn't know. I grew up in like a beautifully liberal blue bubble, and then I left and I was like, what? And so that's why I make that face now.
Yeah, I get it wholeheartedly. Well, welcome. Tippendales, I've known Justin for about 12 years now, maybe 10. We met through the world of performing, though have never performed together. And we've just sort of been like internet and IRL friends off and on for a decade. And as soon as I last connected with Justin, I knew that I wanted Justin on this podcast because I find Justin's creation journey and story so incredible. And I wanted everyone to meet Justin, not the least of which because I think of most of my friends, Justin, you and I are just like polarly different people who greatly enjoy each other's company. And I think that rules.
Yeah. I actually wouldn't have even, I would love to hear a way or two in which you think we are polarly different people, but I guess that's true. I've never thought about it like that.
Every time we hang out, I come out of that conversation being like, man, my life works differently, and I'm goddamn thrilled Justin's is Justin's.
That is totally fair. I did realize the other day, like a word that I don't think about actively, but something that I've never had to really drill down or practice is like discipline. And I think that I at times, especially over the last 3 years, have lived perhaps an overly disciplined existence. And I'm not certain if that's exactly what you're referring to, but it does feel in the realm of possibility that, there's a certain amount of, I don't want to say self-flagellation, but I do want to say a very high bar that I expect of myself at all times.
I consider myself a very disciplined person and a very structured person. But when you and I talk about those things, I realize that in all the ways that you have very successfully built a structured lifestyle for yourself that works are the opposite of my structures. And yet I consider myself structured. And I actually think it helps remind me that old adage of like, if someone's telling you the way to do something, they're wrong, right? Like, if people help you find your way, they're right. If people tell you the way, they're wrong. And like that, I have to drill into myself on the daily.
I also love that accidentally I secretly dragged you, I guess, by being like, discipline's the place where we differ, Ned, is what I mean to say is you are this lugubrious fuck. And here I am I had no intention of that, but I think you're right. And it's just funny too, just the last point of it is I don't see myself as very organized or systems oriented or really a structured person. I think that's why all of my tips this month are about energy management, because that's the best way I know how to execute and operate in my life. But you're right. And yes, I respect the shit out of your grind. And so you got structure, baby.
I got something. Well, I'll admit our friendship has sort of been built on we met at a very specific time in life and then we keep meeting at a very specific time in life. So I don't know a lot about your background prior to us meeting. So could you give me like the brief summary of like what got I mean, we met in 2014 when you were, I believe, getting ready to tour Nice Work?
Yes, that's correct. How did I get to 2014? A wing and a prayer. I think one of the most important things to know that I am, again, coming to terms with now is that I grew up in a world, and this is no tea, no shade at my family or the friends I had or the educators necessarily, but in a world that I don't think actually knew what to do with me necessarily or understood me as a kid. I also think the conversation surrounding neurodivergence and the complexities that kids already possess at very young ages is so much more prevalent now. But that, and adding to that, coming out when I was like 14 and a really hardy amount of bullying, crafted a life that was so unbelievably defined by achievement, which is now, maybe by the end of this episode, everything I've said will click about me and why I sort of identify as this person with this high bar, which is like, don't worry, we're working on it in therapy. And I'm very proud of everything that I achieved. I went to a good school. I went to Northwestern in Chicago, studied theater, gender studies, dance, music. I was like, I will make a BFA where there isn't one. Graduated, started working pretty immediately in theater after graduating. Not the version I thought. I thought I was going to graduate and be like immediately in Mormon. So
Sure.
that was like a great reality check, to be totally honest, because I went through 4 years of college being like, no one here understands me, which like kind of was true, but also I didn't understand me. And
Sure.
I think what's most important is like, I don't feel like I fully understood how much I was hiding and not showing up until like 3 years ago. So I did meet
Mm.
you in 2014, but certainly not as the version of myself that I am today. And you probably agree about yourself.
I agree about myself wholeheartedly. When you came to the city and didn't immediately jump into the Book of Mormon on Broadway, what were the methods you found of understanding that for yourself? Like if that was the goal, how did you wrap your head around that goal being changed and how did you either come to terms or fight back or like help yourself rationalize that moment?
Is this the moment where I recognize that I never did? Because,
Yeah, sure.
um, yeah, I think it was. I'll say the sentence and then see the sentence that comes after it because I can't see it in my head quite yet. It was one of those situations where I'd had like something like 9 final callbacks for this show and was in a room at one
Sure.
point with 3 other boys who I think at this point have all done the show. And Casey Nicholas sitting on the floor with our headshots being like, well, you boys are it. It's just waiting for spots to open up. And when that never really came to pass, but I do remember they checked on my availability for the tour at one point, but I was already going to do another show. I was doing Ever After at Paper Mill, Ever After the first time at Paper Mill, the second time being at the Alliance. Uh, I wanted to remain true to the commitment I'd made. And so my agents told them I wasn't available. And in my head, like that's when the door closed. And if that's the reason the door closed, because I honored a prior commitment, I'm okay with that. While I don't want to be the person
Totally.
who's like, I would always honor the commitment. I am true to my word. Integrity is which I am that guy. But like, look, if it was this most insane opportunity, I might have done it. But at that time, Ever After was going to be pre-Broadway, et cetera, et cetera. So I was like, this is the right move. But I am proud to say I really do. If I say I'm going to do something, I do it. And so I think the rationalization came with if that's the reason why I don't get it, I'm okay with that.
I mean, all of us have that moment of like, man, there's an opportunity over here, but I've committed to a thing, and you have to make the decision. And this is in anyone's life. It literally, not just acting. Just we're going to probably use that parlance as a shared communication space. But like, how? What is your hold on to this feeling for making that decision? For like, there are times where the opportunity is good enough that you're like, I have to call the prior commitment and say like, mea culpa, please, please forgive me. I have to do this. And I have found for me, most of the time, the opportunity that I'm going to is like, oh my God, yeah, go. But like for you, what is the kind of like mental space or conversation you have to work through that problem?
I think, and maybe this won't come as a surprise if you've heard a tip or two of mine already, but or maybe just one, but I really try to let my body be my guide now in life. I'm exceptional at intellectualizing things, and I would have been an incredible lawyer because I can logic myself into or out of pretty much anything. So I find that that's not a reliable narrator for decision making always. But if my body kind of tells me like this is an uncomfortable decision that you're not looking forward to making, but you ultimately know you're supposed to go do this thing, or I run my own business at this point. This person's ultimately not a fit. Let's give them this amount of time, and then you might have to, let them go. Like it's the same sort of feeling of like there's discomfort on the horizon, but the discomfort is not so great that you're going to not only withstand it, but then continue said discomfort by staying in the situation just to keep somebody else comfortable. So I think for me, it's a check in with like, what's my gut telling me? Because my belief is that your body always, always knows and your head lies.
It's funny. We had a tip back in the first, like, I wouldn't say 90 days of this show. So 300 episodes ago, probably. That is how I chose what college I went to. That was given to me when I was a kid, which is if you're deciding between two things and you truly don't know which way you want to go, flip a coin and then see if you're disappointed at the result. If so, just do the other one. And that's how it feels, right? Like you look down the path, and if both of them you're like, these are good opportunities for me, but one of them you're like, but I really don't want to. It's a great, don't do that.
hmm It's there's an episode of Friends where Rachel takes a pregnancy test, and I guess like spoiler alert for a show that's over 20 years old. And Phoebe tells her that she's not pregnant, and she gets very upset. And she's like, "No, it's totally great. Like that's exactly what I wanted." And then Phoebe's like, "Well, that's good because you actually are pregnant." And Rachel's like, "What?" And she's like, "I just wanted you to like know how you really felt about it." Except it was much more comical and sitcom-y than that, but agreed wholeheartedly.
Okay, so now we've gotten to Performer 2014-ish and, Ever After-ish, Justin, which I'm gonna be honest with you, I forgot you did Ever After, and I saw that in both iterations and hung out with you then. And, where does your life go, and how does it adjust from, like, nice work if you can get it on tour to, let's say, Tina?
Yeah. Things get bad for a while, Ned. Things get bad. I and also so Ned's referencing the Tina Turner musical, which I did on Broadway starting in 2019. So we're looking at the gap between 2015, which is whenever after V1 happened in 2019. At the end of 2015, my sister passed away in a car accident, which obviously is like the curveball a person doesn't expect. And I'm not sure how much of your life you've shared on here, but if people know anything about Ned, yeah, we have some shared kinship, grief. And again, something that you can't possibly understand the seismic, not only nature of the event, but also the ripples outward that it will have ad infinitum in your life. So in 2016, ironically enough, or not, depending on how you look at it, the universe was like, here's literally all the theater jobs. Please go work and like don't always focus on being sad. And I was like, say less. So I did Babes in Arms here in the city. I went and worked at Sacramento Music Circus. I went and did Seven Brides for Seven Brothers at Agunquit. And again, not certain that I processed to the degree one probably should, whatever that means. And it's work that I'm doing now, literally 1 decade exactly later. But again, in hindsight, I think that the years from 2015 to 2019 were really defined by how can I cope? Like, how can I try to show up and live as presently as possible while still quietly shoving down like a great deal of like truly visceral, life-altering pain. And in a weird way, again, the first many years of my life where I had done something similar but to a smaller degree prepped me for that. High achieving, success driven boy covering up a lot of negative emotions succeeds after something traumatic like that happens. So when Tina happened, it came right after my soft decision that I was like, I think I'm done with the business. I'm very tired of
Mm.
auditioning. I'd already started my headshot company, which was really successful. Um, and I was like, I'm just tired. I've done this now for 6 years post graduation. Broadway still hasn't happened, and I'm finally reconciling with the idea that it might never. And of course, it was like letting go of that let it happen, which was again unsurprising to me. And Tina was one of the best experiences I've had. One of the most difficult, swinging, and then the pandemic, but learned a lot about myself and even more about the business.
Hell of a show. I loved it. Saw it twice.
It was fun. It was big. It was exciting. I think that again, everybody wants to be on the creative team when you're inside of it because you're like, I could fix it. I know what to do. And the show didn't need a ton of fixing. I just think that it got it drew the short end of the stick where timing was concerned, just because the pandemic was. I don't know if you all know this, but the pandemic was hard. Do you guys
There
know
was
it?
a global pandemic
It
Lovato.
it the pandemic Lovato, she, her, they, them's was not good. It was really affected people deeply and badly. Um, but to be on Broadway pre and post was really interesting too, because the landscape changed drastically.
Well, so a tip that you haven't given yet, but is coming up, spoilers, is around the idea of ritualization and kind of like using ritualization to achieve. During that period for you, you call it the dark days of grief and coping while working and literally putting on face. How, what systems did you employ that you would call ended up being healthy-ish to help you achieve being successful, finding moments to grieve, finding moments where you could come to terms with anything? Like where in that space did you find success outside of tamping it down and succeeding career-wise?
I didn't. That's what I
Okay.
mean. Like I didn't. And so I think that as I look back, um, I mean, to say that anxiety spirals were a near daily occurrence, I not only outsourced my worth, but the smallest mistakes or missteps that I accidentally made, specifically in romantic relationships, were mountainous, because this idea of somebody leaving me became so, I mean, it's wild to relive this a little bit, but like so unbelievably frightening. And like, I think I probably put the two together, but I was doing literally no management of emotions. I mean, I was in therapy, I remember that, and I was trying to learn how to deal with the anxiety, but the anxiety was so just merely a symptom of what I'd experienced, as opposed to like generalized anxiety disorder, which for sure the bitches always had anyway. But um, yeah, I wasn't successful in that at all.
Can I ask, and feel free to tell me no and I'll edit this out. Have you found ways to keep Jordan sort of still with you in all of this? You know, like, have you found ways to honor either daily or in ritualization, like ways that you find that cleansing in any some way to help you kind of like figure things out?
You don't have to edit this out, and the answer is kind of also no. Like, this is really the year. I don't think we get to be 1000% prescriptive about our healing timeline, but we do get to say, okay, I'm going to put myself in the room where I think I can do this work. And that's what I did this year. I went back to therapy, specifically somatic therapy. And I think that's also where a lot of this background on the tips that you will get from me this month come from. It's this awareness of my body and what I'm feeling that I think I just, for the last 10 years, have been. I mean, there were years there where I was like, I don't feel absolutely anything. I don't feel joy. I don't feel sadness. And I still trip into this area um, more frequently than I'd like to admit to myself, I guess. Um, I love real-time rambling, by the way, because I think it's so informative. If you allow yourself to actually speak from your body and just purge, you'll learn so much about you, and that's a lot of how I talk about content creation on social media. Um, no, even you saying her name, which I don't say almost ever, I was like, "Oh,
Oh,
don't lose it," and I'm fine, and I'm totally fine. But yeah, I don't even really ever say her name, which is a very
mm,
intense thing to also recognize.
sure. When you decided, and I mean, not to put too casual a point on it, but also the pandemic Lovato of it all decided for you. But when you sort of decided to original goal industry on hold, I've been doing these headshots and thinking about leaving. Now I've pivoted into the TED Talk space and where we are now. How did you come to that realization? Was it like an overnight you woke up and went, hey, I did it? Or is it a sort of like amorphous moving target over time that all of a sudden you found yourself in?
It was the amorphous moving target over time that I suddenly found myself in, and this reflection on me from people around me that I'd always been very helpful and a very good listener and a very good advice giver. And so they were like, "You should write a book." And I was like, "Who the fuck am I to write a book?" And I was like, "That's not where this starts." And so where it actually started was me going to like a quote unquote coaching school, mostly because I was like, let me see if I even enjoy this. And in my head, I was like, Hippocratic Oath, like if I was to enter into this space, let's do no fucking harm. So I wanted to approach it as technically proficient as I could, which also totally scans for me. And then when I
Yeah.
started creating, I'm going to be the best. Then when I started creating on TikTok, especially, and recognized how like broken the very schema of social media and how we are told to create content is and felt, which was also how I identified like, wow, I've really been hiding so many parts of me in my life because creating content feels like I'm suffocating. Uh, the part that I fell into is when I just started showing up and talking, and people were like, wow, this is revelatory. And I was like, which part? The me being me? Like, and then people were like, we want help with content creation. And I was like, I have a sneaking suspicion that's not what you're talking about. And then upon conversation with them, I was like, no, you don't know who you are. So the accidental part of this was like the multi six-figure business that I'm very proud of building out of this was so not on my radar, was not the plan. And helping people has become something I get paid a lot of money to do, and I love it, but I also get to show up and create absolutely free content every single day across many platforms. And it's been an outlet for my being an amplified but certainly out of truth self. And it wasn't until this is so gay. I watched the Tonys recently where I was like, I miss it so much. And like Cynthia Erivo
Yeah.
being perfect and Audra being perfect. And I was just like, this is the mountain I'm supposed to climb. And so me and my team, the team that works for me in my business, I've just said to them like, look, I love this and we need to continue to grow and scale this, but I need to get back to what my original dream was as well.
So now we're in the current phase of your life. And you and I went to a wedding last year and we had a long car ride together. And we talked about a lot of things. And something you said that you may not even remember you said, but I would love to dig into a little bit is you're in this new phase of your life and this new phase has redefined itself. And I think sometimes we look at phases as being very, it is this, and then I move to this, and then I move to this. And I was fascinated by the idea that not only were you in a new phase, but that new phase was reorganizing into a new phase. And how do you think about, you know, when something becomes consistent and when something needs adjusting? And how do you recognize the difference between the two?
I made a face to those of you who are only listening to this when Ned said that we went to it last year because was it truly last calendar year?
It was last July.
Oh no. Oh my God.
It's quite literally, depending on when this comes out, it'll probably be not quite a year, but some of your tips will be more than a year.
Oh no. Listeners, viewers, I'm having an existential crisis. It's all great. It's so good. Anyway, the question that you're asking is actually so unbelievable and so pertinent because I just had this moment, whatever new phase I was entering then, we're entering a new cubed phase now because
Sick.
uh yeah, well I realized the other day and maybe this will help anybody else is I'm a person who often tries to step outside of the thing and see it as objectively and 30,000 feet in the air as I can. And the other day I recognized that very Truman Show like, very Schuman Show like, I
Oh,
tried to, had to, couldn't not. I tried to step outside of me and social and my business only to realize, like, oh, that's not the sky. That's a wall. I'm stuck in the snow globe. I can't get out. And I was like, oh no. I've even lost the ability to be completely objective about this. And I was like, this book has to close. It's time for another book to open. And when I reflected that back to my COO, she was like, well, can I share something with you? I was like, yeah. She's like, in the dreams that you've painted about your life and your business, you know what you've never said you want to do even once? I'm like, what? She's like, coach, be a coach at all. And it's true. I've always had this really weird relationship to that word. I've never felt like it fit. And the one-on-one work I do with my clients feels like surgery. It feels like human creative direction. It doesn't feel at all like coaching. And she was like, you want to be a public figure. You want to be a thought leader. You want to be Brene Brown, Gary Vee. She was like, that's the direction we should go with this. And I was like, so much weight fell off of me when I recognized that. So the new phase, I'm really interested to explore because I think it involves a lot of me looking at the first 3 years of this journey, referencing them, and continuing forward, just saying like, hey, y'all, I did this thing. I showed up as myself, really unveiled, vulnerable, honest, and built something incredible. I am proof that it works. I'm not going to teach you how to do it, but let me just share my experience so you can understand you might be capable of it too. And I'm going to be doing more influencer stuff and brand deals and whatever, and things that I think in the past I would have been too ashamed to take up the space to do. And now I'm like, fuck it. I can sell underwear and skincare products. Like, why not? And want to be back on Broadway. And probably skincare gets back there faster than tips about content structure. So let's be honest.
I love the idea of kind of a holistic realignment to the vision, right? Like the more you can lock it down. I always talk about when I first moved to New York City, I had like 19 hyphens in my career because I was just doing anything to be in the industry. And it was like video editing and fight directing and stunts and acting and it was nonsense. And I remember distinctly I got offered a gig fight directing a show and I was so annoyed. I was like, I don't want to do this at all. Like, and that was when my brain went, oh, you don't want to fight direct at all. And it was like, cool, let's remove that from the hyphen list. And like, I love this idea of like realignment, especially as you get more established in your own career, to focus in on what do you want to be doing, not just because it removes the things you don't want to be doing, because it creates space for the people who want to be doing those things. I'd rather work with a fight director that wants to be a fight director than get that job from them not wanting to do it. You know what I mean? And I love that idea. How are you actively, and very few of our tips are active, how are you actively trying to pare down that alignment?
It's a great question because I've also realized that although I'm so grateful for my intuition because I think it's gotten me where I am incredibly emotional about my decisions. Earlier when I talked about like only listening to my body, and I hired a CMO as well, and her main overarching job right now is to like vision map where this business and frankly my life go. And she was like, yeah, well, we basically need to put everything you want on a board, Canva, Miro, whatever, and then look at it all and go, great, we can't achieve all of these things at once, but we can decide a couple of them to focus on, and we'll move those chronologically to the front of the line, and then we can reverse engineer the steps needed to make them happen. And it was like this crazy explosion in my brain where I was like, what do you mean? Like, if I say I want to be back on Broadway, we can actually break that down into steps to make it happen. And she was like, sure, like you got to get management again. And you probably should post some videos of you singing. And I was like, oh my God, these deeply emotional achievements can be made very objective and steps wise, which doesn't mitigate their reverence. This is how little I think of these things like this. It blew my mind. And so the active steps we're taking, although I'm still deeply impatient, include making sure my whole team is on the same page and folded in and knows where we're going. and identifying those more immediate goals and setting the steps to make them happen and then achieving said steps. It takes something incredibly exciting like being on Broadway or getting back to Broadway and breaks it down in a way that sounds very, not didactic, but has a little bit of corporate structure to it, but like shit gets done that way. And if it was up to me, I am the most incredible, you'll never meet a bottleneck like Justin Schuman, let me tell you. And so I'm grateful I am surrounded by people who can remove friction, dropping one of the hyphens per your point.
What I love about that, and this is, I think, where I'll leave it as a final note for my takeaway, is what I love about breaking down into steps like that is one, actionable goals, right? Like Be on Broadway is not an actionable goal. It requires so many steps that other people control that you'll never touch. And it's sort of like one of those, like, whenever I coach podcasting and people say, like, well, I want to triple my downloads. And it's like, well, that's hard because that requires people to take an action you can't control. Like, you have to set a goal that you can achieve or you can fail or you'll go insane. But one of the things I love about breaking down into actionable steps like that is it also allows you to see a step and have that moment where your body goes, that's not for me. That step isn't me. And I don't need to take it. I can find a different step that is me, that achieves the same goal. Like, breaking it down allows you to also find your own path, because what is a path but a step-by-step process, you know?
And I guess the takeaway I'll leave it at is what I've recognized with working with hundreds and hundreds of people over the last 3 years is an interesting thing that you just took for granted, and it speaks to how like physically and aware you and I are because of where we come from and sensitive to our bodies is sometimes looking at that step and saying that's not for me. People can't identify whether it's because, well, it makes me uncomfortable or because it's like, no, that disagrees with me and my values. And so something, maybe this segues into like where you can follow me and what I do, but helping people globally, truly what I've recognized more so than content creation and personal branding, although they're included in this, is what if you knew the difference between the two because you just remembered, per your earlier point about imagination and being childlike, but what it felt like to feel your own impulses and then act on them. So this somatic embodiment of like who you are and how you can do that work that isn't just esoteric and obtuse, but like storytelling publicly, which again, we happen to use content creation in this case, like that's my method, that's my approach, and that's what I'm trying to codify and teach people.
I love that. Justin, this has been a joy of a conversation, and I'm so thankful that you came on Daily Tips that may or may not help you this month. And Tippendales, if my release date for this at the time of recording is correct, you have 4 more tips of Justin Schuman coming this month. If I'm wrong, then that's not true. Justin, could you please just quickly remind the people who you are and tell the Tippendales where they can follow you more to learn more or even work with you on this stuff?
Happily reminding you, I'm Justin Schuman. Human's in my last name, and pretty much everywhere where it matters, I am Justin Schuman Official. SCHUMAN Official. And it would be lovely to see you on social, and know that if you follow me and you shoot me a DM, it's lovely to connect, and I will do my utter best to get back to you. And bandwidth.
I want to clip bandwidth and just like put that out as a
That's
GIF.
the meme. Yep.
That's the meme. Bandwidth.
Bandwidth.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful rest of your day. I'm so excited for your tips here on Daily Tips that may or may not help you. And I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for having me.